Essentially, I'm doing a ethical hacking job. So I'm based in Amsterdam here. So I work in one of the major telecom company. We have a global a presence in multiple countries. And apart from that, like I have 7 years of a progressive IT experience and education wise, like I have my master's and bachelor's in computer science. And apart from that, I would say prior to my previous job experience, which wasn't like ethical hacking, it was yeah, as an IT engineer, it was good because I was getting paid. Yeah, and but I guess like the life changed more interestingly when I started working, and the future, like I would like to see myself more toward the cloud side because I guess like that's everywhere as an enterprise need, and that's what I would end with for now. Evolve plays like a very strong foundation because of the boot camp. It was so much like a oriented and very much organized due to the like multiple reasons. Firstly, obviously there was a curriculum which was very concept based, so it wasn't like something like you're just thrown in the wild and now you actually just you have to find yourself what you need to do. And we had a like an instructor Kasim, and then there was a Candido and like other folks who were with me. So we had all a common goal.
Yeah.
And most of all, why I would just like to give a praise Evolve. I wasn't like all alone because when you are just like preparing for something, you're just all alone. But when you have a kind of a group and they also have your same common goals and everyone is geared towards it, then your preparation becomes a little more motivated, and you're just and you know like you have someone guiding to you in exactly the right direction. I guess there were many challenges for me because as I started my bootcamp last year October around the same time, and the classes were around 2 in the morning, and sometimes there will be office hours which starts like 1 in the morning, then there was time zone, and so everything anybody can imagine. And then the last thing, I have to just leave my home by 7 in the morning for the work. And if all wasn't there like in a structured way, then maybe the OSCP wasn't there, and maybe I wouldn't be doing like what I'm doing right now. And so as a basic difference, like I would, if I have to compare just doing the OSCP on your own and like the evolve way is at least you have somebody to support you in terms of instructor, in terms of like you actually when you because in the and as we know like it's already established it like the OSCP is not a straightforward exam or like a book exam. It's a pretty hard exam, but you need to have kind of a right tools, and you need to have more than that apart from a tools you need to have a strategy. So when I say like a strategy, I would give an example like we can solve hack the box, we can solve like a try hack me, although all those are like a perfect resources. But the problem is like you might be able to solve 20 boxes, then you will be somewhere getting some kind of a fair idea. Okay, then you might be able to solve more boxes. But when it comes you don't know what was exactly the abuse service that you ended up actually that got you a privileged, and what is the real life use of that. And so those are very like a nitty gritty things like you actually learn in the boot camp, and those are like a real life skills which actually help you in the job. So that I actually contribute my OSCP journey with the evolve, like as a long story short, even though it was still long.
No, that's great. That's really good. So I think you pointed out a couple of important things. One, the OSCP exam is a difficult exam. It's not a book exam, right? It's a practical exam. It's a challenging practical exam. you do need some sort of support to do the exam, and that's what Evolve actually offers their students. The other thing that I liked what you pointed out was that the instructors in the boot camp are knowledgeable, they are penetration testers. So not only do you understand the core concepts of what you are exploiting and what service you're using and what tools you're using, but you also understand how to apply those in the real world. Right. So that's a little bit of a difference between just self-studying and working with an instructor who have been in the field, who are working in the field, because they are able to point out exactly how they used it on their penetration testing engagement. So those are some really good points, Mohit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about how you prepared for your OSCP. Like what was your process like for prepping for the OSCP exam?
I actually happen to have some kind of a bit of a structured approach. So I would say like anyone like preparing or like who are. So first you start with like understanding the material, because I guess like in a OSCP, the most important thing is you need to understand the material. So when you start like and blindly follow the advice of your instructor and the TA, because as you said yourself, like people have a direct experience, and that's most important, and that's why you are coming for a boot camp. So so understand the material, understand your concepts, then do the boxes. And when you do some kind of a one box, try to try to just redo the boxes after 2 or 3 days, so that you have some kind of absorbed about like how why that box was resolved in that. Because that why thing will not only help you in your OSCP exam, it will also help you in a real life a job, because that's all. It's because I would say like a OSCP exam is more difficult, but doing a real job of a penetration tester is not far equivalent to that. And the most of all, I would say you need to budget your time, because as we all know, and the OSCP is a 24 hours exam, and we have something like a 5, or maybe by now there might be more. And ideally, after second month of my preparation, I would just spend like 2 to 3 hours per box. Because initially for first month, I was completely lost. I wasn't like actually just going anywhere. Then I thought like I spoke to my DAs and they said to strategize your time. Because in when you actually just develop that skill, that's where like you will be able to do more boxes. Because it's very easy like to get fixated like on a one box. You spend the whole day and you just never come out of it, if it's like. And so you need to be very much efficient, like I would say like anybody who is preparing. So from your second month of a preparation, make sure that you budget your time and take notes. And if you solve a box, try to redo the box in like, think like how differently you can solve it, because all those are the skills you're taking the OSCP in first place.
So, Mohit, what I'm hearing is one, time management,
Yeah,
have a structured approach, take a lot of notes.
yeah,
One of the things that you've mentioned that um, our other speakers have noticed, to redo the box after 2 or 3 days
yeah,
so that you build that muscle memory, and now you're focusing on learning the why portion of it, right? So you do a box in the lab and then you revisit it after 2 or 3 days, do it again.
yeah.
So that's a good strategy.
I forgot like most important thing. Like people have a misconception, or maybe I can be also put wrong. When you actually book your exam when you are in your second month of your preparation, make sure that is you book your exam when you normally just start your daily routine. Because people think they're gonna start in like a late evening, so their body clock is already completely kind of off. So you don't need to race against the clock. You just need to be on exam for exam day. So one added tip.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, schedule an exam on the time that you usually start your workday so that you are fresh,
Yeah,
alert, that's your regular work hours, and don't schedule an exam at the end of the workday because
you're already done.
you're already tired. Yeah, that's good advice. Good. Um, Now let's talk about some challenges, Mohit. You already said you were in a different time zone. You know, you are based in Amsterdam. The course was being taught um, Chicago Central Time, right? So it was like perhaps like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. For you. So that
Yeah,
was a challenge. Um, I
yeah,
think our audience would be excited to know that we are launching a boot camp in Feb, which is based in the European time zone. So it's going to be 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. GMT, which will be very suitable for folks like you in Europe, who want to study for the OSCP exam. So what are the challenges did you have? So you said you were working full time, it was a completely different time zone. You were up in the nights until 3, 4 a.m. and then go to work at 7 in the morning. Do you have any other challenges that you would like to add? And what I would like to know is how you worked around those as well.
yeah. Well, see, like I would say there were many challenges. First thing was like I was newly married, so you have to have your family in balance. But I have a very supporting wife, and she actually, I think, like half of the credit, maybe a little more than that, like goes to her because of like being kind of a paranoid with the with how the OSCP like work around. I guess like the most important thing, which I felt like for until starting from the time when you start your OSCP, you you have to believe that you need to isolate for something, and that should not be just like thinking a goal like I just need to get OSCP cert. That should be a goal like where you have to think like yeah, it's something like your complete trajectory of your career will change. And why that is important is because it will help you as a person, it will help you as a professional, and it will also help you in taking like a more higher exams, because I would say like OSCP is just one journey like when you start, and beyond that like there is a more complex world where you have to dive in. And so that's an temporary isolation, kind of a sleep sacrifice, and the time management most of all, because I was in a different time zone, so I have to, maybe I was sleeping for 3 or 4 hours or maybe less than that. Some IT is like that, I would say. Like,
But all those sacrifices paid off, right? So, we were discussing before the webinar started how the OSCP completely changed the trajectory of your career. Could you talk a little bit about that and tell the audience a little bit about that as well?
yeah, of course. Like, uh, as I said, like I have been in IT, so I have like a 6, 7 years progressive IT experience, and but I always felt like there was something like more to do, even though like I have a cybersecurity master's, but I felt this was the path, but was never getting like the time and the motivation like to do. I think like it might be a story of many like me. So people who wanted to do something, but they had some kind of a commitments. And today I'm actually the first thing I'm doing what I like to do. The second thing I was able to, I'm in a home like which I can afford right now. And so I would say like my whole life actually changed after OSCP. And I have thankfully a supporting team and a very supporting boss as well, which is rare to get. That's all those good things came with the OSCP.
That's awesome. All right. So, other than the bootcamp experience, how did your previous experiences help you, or your work experience help you with passing the OSCP?
Well, see, the only big difference it made without bootcamp was like because I had some kind of a fundamental like IT experience and some computer study. that's where it helped me out. But I guess like the core tool set which I have in today is due to the structured like the boot camp, and that's what I have to give an honest credit.
Let's talk about the strategy for exam day. You did mention a little bit about scheduling the exam in your regular working hours, when you're the most productive and most alert. Apart from that, like what would be your advice for somebody on exam day? What should they do on the day of the exam?
Well, see, like the first thing first, there are few simple things you need to do not to. First thing is like you need to be in a place like where nobody disturbs you. Then make sure that you actually turn on all the lights and get the maximum lights, because the OSCP exam actually it's not just ending after 24 hours. You have to write the report, and you have to also understand like nobody is actually just used to work 24 hours non-stop, and when you're completely exhausted. So all those like very little things, and of course like just have a format of just have a habit of just writing reports so that you actually are used to it. That will help you out. And the second thing is like the moment you solve the box, make sure you are actually taking the requisites to pass it, because sometimes we get like so much excited that we literally forgot then in the last moment, like, and it's very much like a stressing, you're completely stressed out, and eventually you don't want to be on that side, which you never want. And the second thing is like this should be something someone like who is very serious, like from your second month, you will there is a fact like you will never feel like you're fully prepared for OSCP exam. But I would say like you have to understand like you need to be reasonably prepared. And in a OSCP you have your grace points, like when you do like offsec material, so when they're study material, so do make sure that you gain those 10 points, because on the exam day those 10 points might look like okay, why should I even care for that, but they can become your insurance. So you might be actually near to 60. You solve the three boxes, got your 60 points, but now you're completely stuck with the one box. But if you have that one that those one like a 10 points, you are already done. So the effort has to be always on a OSCP exam day, that how to minimize the stress, because you during your preparation time, I guess like if you have been seriously like doing as your boot camp says, you have almost all the skills to pass the exam, but you don't have a skill to actually face that pressure and the stress, because nobody is used to it. So that grace point, booking the exam like in early morning hours, because then you have the whole day, you don't have to pressures, and take enough breaks. And I'm sure like the OffSec is like whoever the examiners are like just watching you. They're like very friendly. They're not kind of a scary people. They lend you like as many breaks. I think I might have taken 7 breaks if I remember correctly. And and make sure like when you on the exam day, if you haven't solved the box in by third hour, just move to the next box, because there's no point of like sticking, because even for, as my own personal experience, I was on a box for 8 hours, then I took a break, solved a different box, I got my points. And I was thankfully someone who got the exam in first attempt, and that's also something which I kind of feel proud. That's what little things definitely help.
I don't know many people who have passed the OSCP on the first attempt, Mohit. You're definitely one of them, so you should definitely feel proud for that. All right, Mohit, for somebody who wants to do the OSCP, so they are starting their journey now, right? What sort of advice would you give them at the start of their journey? What would you tell them as somebody who's passed the OSCP on the first attempt? What's your advice
I would say, like, say, if you're starting today or anytime sooner, the first thing is, if you're enrolled to your boot camp, just don't put your head to the 100 million things like Discord, because there are so many people which they will share that experience. You have to understand everyone's experience is very personal to them and it's not something generic. You have to, and the best advice anybody can give you is from your bootcamp instructor or your TA, because who will be interacting with you on almost every classes. So they know you better as a person and obviously as an exam taker. Follow their advice, do everything like what they say, and then jump to your OSCP, that study material, get your 10 points, and you have your exam.
Cool.
It's simple, don't make it complicated. I made it.
We have a question coming in from Daryl. From the time you started studying to the time you took the exam, what was the time frame? How long was that whole process from the time you studied to the time you took the exam?
So I studied around like the same time. I think like it was in my time it was like a 3 months. We used to have a boot camp. So August initially starting, and then until this, yeah. So Jan I took my exam, Jan 24 16th, and that's what. And during that exam, I also actually one most important advice that people need to understand, like they have to take and they have to set their self in a like exam specific environment. So I took like two more certification, and also I set it up multiple times in an exam for myself. Like, so try to solve the 5 boxes in those 24 hours. So that was it. So August to Jan last year.
What's your final thoughts for passing the OSCP?
I would say just like it might look at right now that it's a bit of a money, and I would also share my personal experience that I didn't had any much to pay for the boot camp, but I guess like I manage it and everyone can somehow manage it. Make sure you go for it, because the life what you get after the OSCP is more than what you invest in the boot camp. That's how I would like to conclude.
That's awesome. Return on investment is what you should be looking at, right? So
More than 100% lifetime return.
that's great. That's great. All right, everyone. Mohit, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking some time out. I know it's almost evening time, in Amsterdam. So really appreciate it. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for coming and doing this webinar with us. Everybody in the audience, thank you very much for coming in and asking questions. I really enjoyed it. Thank you all for attending.